It's a Tuesday in August, about 7 in the evening, and the sun's finally dropped low enough that the parking lot quits throwing heat back in your face. That's the hour people want to be outside. We had a couple staying in room 14, retired folks down from Ohio, the kind who'd book a whole week and sit out by the pool every night with a paperback and a plastic cup of iced tea. That Tuesday, the wife comes up to the front office with both arms held out in front of her, and she's counting the welts out loud, 11 on the one arm. She wasn't even angry. She was just done. They checked out 2 days early, and on their way out, the husband told me, real polite, that the place was nice, but they couldn't sit still for the bugs. 60 rooms, and that pool deck was the only thing we had that made people want to stay an extra night. Mosquitoes were costing us guests, and the manager's answer was always the same. Call the fog truck. The company that fogged that property wanted $240 a month to come spray a cloud of poison that killed every bug it touched, and then quit working the second a breeze came through. By the next weekend, the mosquitoes were right back on that pool deck, and so was the invoice, every single month, for years. Here's what I finally figured out, and it cost me almost nothing. There's a powder you put in standing water. Runs you about $15, $20 at any hardware store, and one container lasts most folks a whole season. It kills mosquitoes before they ever grow wings, while they're still down in the water. And the part that matters most, the part nobody selling you a monthly contract wants to lead with, it does not harm one honeybee, not one butterfly, not the fish in your pond, not the birds at your feeder, not the dog laying across your feet on the porch. It touches the mosquito larvae, and it touches nothing else alive. That's not marketing. That's the actual science of the thing. And I'll show you exactly why in a few minutes. My name's Earl. I spent 40 years as the maintenance man at a 60-room motel off a Florida highway. And if you want to understand mosquitoes, you find yourself a low piece of Florida ground with a swimming pool, a drainage ditch out by the road, and 60 air conditioners all dripping water onto concrete. We had every kind of standing water a mosquito ever dreamed about. And once I learned to do this right, we went from people checking out early to folks sitting out past dark, and I held the line on that whole property for under $40 a season. We didn't have a mosquito problem worth complaining about for the last 15 years I worked there, and I never once paid a fog truck to get it. So here's what I'm going to do for you today. I'm going to walk you through the exact method in order with what everything costs and where to buy it and where to put it. It's 3 steps, and any one of you can do all 3 this weekend. But before I do, I want to tell you the part that ought to make you a little sore. The thing I'm about to show you has been sitting on hardware store shelves since the 1980s. The mosquito control districts in this country, the public ones run by your own tax dollars, they've used this exact bacteria for decades. It is not a secret to anyone in the business. It's just that there's no money in telling you to do it yourself for 15 bucks. There's a lot of money in showing up at your house once a month with a tank. It's not a conspiracy. Nobody had to get in a room and plan it. They just had to stay quiet about the cheap fix, and they have. Stay with me, because by the end of this, you'll understand mosquitoes better than the fellow who fogs your neighbor's yard, and you'll never spend $200 a month on it again. Now here's what most folks get wrong. And I got it wrong too for my first few summers out there. You're fighting the wrong mosquito. When you swat at one on your arm, when you light the citronella candle, when you buy the zapper or hire the fog truck, you are fighting the adult, the grown mosquito that flies and bites. And by the time you're fighting that one, you've already lost, because she's already laid her eggs. One female mosquito lays a couple hundred eggs in her life, and she does it in water. Not a pond, not a lake, water. A bottle cap's worth. The saucer under a flower pot. A kid's toy left out in the rain. A clogged gutter. She needs about as much water as you'd spill making coffee, and she'll turn it into 200 more mosquitoes in a week. So when you go after the adults, you're bailing out a boat while the hole's still wide open. You kill the ones flying today, and tomorrow there's 200 fresh ones coming up out of the water you never looked at. The whole game, the entire thing, is the water. Kill them in the water before they fly, and the war is already over before it starts. Walt taught me that, the old fellow who trained me when I started at that motel back in '78. Walt didn't have any fancy product. Walt just walked the property with a bucket every Monday morning and dumped out everything that was holding water. And he'd say, "You don't fight the mosquito, son, you fight the puddle." Took me a few years to understand the man was a genius. So step one costs you nothing but a half hour of your Saturday. And it's the most important thing in this whole video. Walk your property, slow, the way Walt walked that motel. You're hunting for standing water, and I promise you've got more of it than you think. Flower pot saucers, the bottom of the wheelbarrow, the tarp over the wood pile that's got a sag in it holding a gallon, the old tire, the bird bath, the kids' wagon, the gutters, the corrugated drain pipe, the recycling bin with the cracked lid. At the motel, my worst offender wasn't the pool at all. It was the 60 air conditioner units, every one of them dripping into little low spots along the back wall, and a row of decorative planters out front that the tightwad manager bought because they were on sale, and they had no drain holes in the bottom. Every one was a mosquito factory. So you dump it, turn it over, drill a drain hole, throw the old tire away. The professionals have a fancy name for this. They call it source reduction. But all it means is you don't let water sit where it doesn't need to. That step alone, done honestly, will cut your mosquitoes by more than half. And it didn't cost you a dime. Now step two, for the water you can't get rid of. Because some water has to stay. You've got a rain barrel you actually use, a pond with fish in it, a pool that's between cleanings, a ditch out by the road like I had that filled up every time it rained and there was no draining it, low spots in the yard that hold water for days. That's where the powder comes in. The product I used, and the one I'd send any of you to, is called Mosquito Bits. Looks like little brown crumbs, like cracked corn. Sold at Home Depot, Lowe's, Tractor Supply, Amazon. Runs about $15 to $20 for a container that'll last you the season. You sprinkle a spoonful into the standing water, and within 24 hours, the mosquito larvae down in there are dead. There's a bigger version for bigger water called mosquito dunks. Those look like little beige donuts, about $18 for a pack of 20, and one of them treats 100 square feet of water for 30 days. You toss one in a ditch, in a low spot, in a rain barrel, and walk away. At the motel, I kept dunks in the ditch out front year-round and a jar of the bits on the maintenance cart for everything else. Total cost to cover that whole property for a summer was less than what the fog company charged for a single visit. Now, the bits and the dunks both work the same way. You can also do what I did for the spots that didn't have any natural water, but where the mosquitoes still came around. Make yourself a trap out of it. Get a dark-colored bucket, black or dark green. Fill it about halfway with water. Throw in a handful of grass clippings or dead leaves, and let it sit a day so it goes a little funky. A mosquito loves nasty water. She'll pick that bucket over your clean rain barrel every time. Then you put a spoonful of the bits in it. She comes, she lays her eggs in your bucket instead of in your yard, and her babies die. You've turned the thing she's hunting for into a trap. Put it somewhere shaded and out of the way, under a shed overhang, behind a bush, somewhere the rain won't fill it up and water it down. Because the more plain rainwater that gets in, the weaker your dose, and you'll need to add another spoonful. I had 3 of those buckets tucked around the back of the motel where guests never saw them, and they pulled the mosquitoes away from the pool deck like a magnet. The manager never knew why the bug complaints dried up. He just kept paying the fog truck out of habit, which tells you something about managers. If an old maintenance man's tricks are worth a few minutes of your time, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button and the thumbs up down there. It's the only way I know you want more of these, and it keeps me making them. And I'll tell you, I put this whole system, this one and about 40 more fixes I worked out over my motel years, into a little book called Earl's Motel Maintenance Manual. If you'd rather have it all written down to keep by the back door, the link's down in the description. No pressure either way. The video's free and it's all here. Now let me tell you what this powder actually is, because once you understand it, you'll trust it, and you'll understand why it's so safe. The active ingredient is a bacteria. The bottle calls it Bacillus thuringiensis israelensis. I just call it BT, like everybody in the business does. It's a bacteria that lives naturally in soil. A fellow over in Israel found it back in 1976 in a stagnant pond, and folks have been using it ever since. Here's the clever part, and this is straight from the EPA, our own government's testing on the stuff. That bacteria makes a crystal, and that crystal only becomes a poison inside the gut of certain larvae, mosquitoes, black flies, and fungus gnats. That's the whole list. The larva has to eat it, and it has to have the exact right kind of gut to switch the poison on. A mosquito larva's got that gut. A honeybee doesn't. A fish doesn't. A frog doesn't. A bird doesn't. Your dog doesn't. Your grandkids don't. The EPA looked at this stuff every which way and concluded it poses no risk to people. And they approve it for use in organic farming, which is about as picky as it gets. It's so specific that the mosquito control districts dump it straight into the storm drains and the salt marshes by the truckload, in places crawling with fish and birds, and the fish and birds carry on just fine. 40 years they've been using it, and there's no documented case of mosquitoes growing resistant to it. Try saying that about your fog truck's poison. So when I tell you it kills the mosquito and nothing else, I'm not being cute. That's the actual mechanism. It's a key that only fits one lock. Now here's the part I promised would bother you. Let's do the simple arithmetic on it, the way I had to do it for that manager every budget season. The fog truck wanted $240 a month. Call it 8 months of mosquito season here in Florida. That's $1,920 a year, every year, forever, for a fog that blows away in the wind and never once touches the water where the next batch is breeding. They have to come back every month because their product is designed to wear off. That's not a flaw in their business. That's the whole business. A fog that lasted wouldn't sell you 12 visits a year. Now here's my side of the ledger. A container of bits, $20. A pack of 20 dunks, $18. A few dark buckets I already had. Call it $40, $50 for the whole season. And I did the labor myself in an afternoon a month while I was already out there fixing other things. So that's $1,900 a year against $50. And the reason nobody runs an ad telling you this is that there's no commission in a $15 jar of corn crumbles you buy once and use yourself. Nobody's getting rich off you dumping a bucket. There's nobody you can call to come dump your buckets and bill you monthly for it. The fix is too cheap and too simple to build a route around, so it stays quiet. And the quiet's been very good for the fog business. Like I said, nobody had to plan it. They just had to not mention it. Now, I'll be straight with you about one thing, because I'm not going to oversell you the way they do. You can buy sprays for the adult mosquitoes too. The essential oil ones that smell like cloves and cinnamon. And they're safe and they smell fine. And you can mist the shady undersides of your shrubs where the adults rest in the heat of the day. They'll knock the grown ones down for a little while. But I want you to understand they're the small part of this, not the main event. They wash off in the rain and they don't last. And if you're counting on a spray to fix your mosquitoes, you're back to fighting the wrong bug. The water is where you win. The spray's just for the evening you've got company coming, and you want the porch clear. Don't let anybody sell you the spray as the answer. The answer's in the bucket. So this weekend, here's what I want you to do. Saturday morning, get yourself a cup of coffee and walk your whole property slow and dump out every single thing holding water. Saucers, gutters, tires, tarps, toys, the works. That's free and it's half your battle. Then on the way home from church or the store, swing by the hardware place and pick up 1 jar of mosquito bits, about $15, and 1 pack of mosquito dunks, about $18. Put a dunk in any water you can't dump. The ditch, the low spot, the rain barrel. Sprinkle a spoonful of bits in the smaller stuff. And if the mosquitoes are bad, make yourself one of those dark buckets with the grass clippings and a spoonful of bits and tuck it in the shade away from where you sit. Then mark your calendar for 30 days out to do it again, because the dunks run about a month. That's the whole thing. Under $40 in an afternoon, and you've done what the fog truck can't do for $2,000 a year. Tell me down in the comments where you're watching from and what your mosquito situation looks like, whether it's a ditch, a pond, a yard that won't drain, whatever you're fighting. I read every one of them, and half the time one of you teaches me something I didn't know. And if you want the rest of the fixes written down, the bucket trap and 40 others, it's all in Earl's MOTEL maintenance manual. Links in the description below. Next time, I'm going to show you the thing I learned about that MOTEL swimming pool that the chemical company charged us for every month for years before I figured out I could do it myself for the price of one bag from the hardware store. There's a fix for green pool water that nobody at the pool store will ever tell you. For the same reason nobody told you about the bucket, and I'll lay the whole thing out for you. Until then, take care of each other, and remember, the folks who kept this country running knew things we're only just starting to remember.